Hi everyone, welcome back for day 2 of our breakfast article. I'm Kat.
I'm Reese.
And we are talking about, like I just said, breakfast. One of the greatest meals of the day.
It is.
One of the 3 greatest meals of the day.
One of the 3. Or if you're a particular diet kind of person, maybe you have more than 3 meals a day.
Could be. Yeah. If you enjoy food to a great deal. Yeah.
Well, we already talked about 2 different kinds of breakfasts. One from the UK, the full English, and then we also talked about danbing.
From Taiwan.
Danbing, you find in Taiwan, and I guess other places too. But today we're talking about 3 other kinds of breakfasts from 3 other countries. And these are ones that I think maybe people will be less familiar with.
Right, which I'm actually less familiar with them too. But I think I probably had something similar to some of these.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think breakfast foods around the world, they can be kind of similar. They're often very carb-based and bread-based. So I think you're going to find that with these too, which means it might sound really delicious to you.
Yum.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So let's talk about some breakfasts. Let's get into the article.
Reading.
From danbing to black pudding, breakfasts from around the world. Sweden's pannkakor. Swedish families often enjoy pannkakor for breakfast. These large, thin pancakes look like French crepes and are often served with fruits, sugar, and syrup. This light meal is the perfect breakfast for anyone with a sweet tooth. Morocco's Bakri. Moroccan Bakri are soft cakes that are made by using semolina, flour, and yeast. The yeast causes hundreds of bubbles to form on the cake's surface. The best Bakri have a texture that melts in your mouth. Bakri can be served with olive oil and sugar, or you can cover them with butter and honey. Iceland's Hafragrautur. If you live in one of the coldest countries in the world, you need a breakfast that warms you up. Iceland's oat porridge, Hafragrautur, does just that. This meal is packed with energy and is made with water, milk, and oats. These ingredients are cooked until they make a thick porridge, which can be topped with butter, brown sugar, raisins, and nuts. After all that talk of breakfast, it's time you tried some for yourself.
Okay, today's article begins by telling us about a breakfast from Northern Europe. Now, I'm going to try and pronounce this, but I'm probably going to say it wrong.
I think all 3 of these are going to be hard to pronounce today.
Yes, please forgive us. Here we go. The first one is Sweden's pannkakor.
Very good. Pannkakor.
That's how it's spelled anyway.
I mean, pannkakor to me sounds like pancake.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think it might be the same word.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
It tells us more. It says Swedish families often enjoy pannkakor for breakfast. Okay, well, before we find out exactly what pannkakor is, let's talk about the word Swedish. Swedish is an adjective describing something or someone that comes from Sweden. Sweden is a beautiful country in Northern Europe. Its capital city is Stockholm. It gets pretty cold in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
And the people there are very nice.
And very beautiful.
Very tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. They're part of a group of countries called
Scandinavia.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about another Scandinavian country also later.
But
for now, we're talking about Sweden. Sweden and Swedish people and Swedish breakfast. So the article says these large, thin pancakes, I told you, look like French crepes and are often served with fruits, sugar, and syrup.
Yum.
So now we know they are a pancake, but they're a specific kind of pancake that's like something called a crepe. A crepe, C-R-E-P-E, is a very thin pancake, often filled with fruit or ice cream and then wrapped around whatever it's filled with. So night markets in Taiwan actually sell crepes a lot. They sell like sweet crepes with,
they do.
I would say like cheesecake and brownies and fruits and maybe mocha, something like that.
So good.
Yeah, super good. But in France, I think they can be either sweet or savory.
Yes, that's true. You can have it with like ham and cheese.
That's true. And when we're talking about syrup that goes on top of crepes and pancakes, syrup is basically pancake pancake sauce. I'm just kidding. It's a sauce made from almost purely sugar. We put it on top of pancakes or we put it in drinks to make them sweet or flavored. If you've gotten bubble tea in the last little while and asked them for sugar, you probably put syrup in the bubble tea.
Right, so it's not like grain dry sugar.
Yeah.
It's kind of sugar made into a liquid.
Liquid sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's syrup.
Very, very sweet. Pancakes are so good. And I think like in Sweden, pancakes in the UK are this thin kind of French crepe style.
Yeah, and I think there's a place that used to serve Swedish pancakes in my hometown. And they were very similar to this. And you'd serve them with syrup and lemon.
Yum. Yes, we serve them with lemon, sugar, and syrup in the UK also. It gives it a nice sour tart taste. It's delicious.
Oh, God, I want one.
Well, the article tells us more. It says, this light meal is the perfect breakfast for anyone with a sweet tooth.
You'll notice I rolled my eyes when they said light.
Light. Yeah.
Sure.
It's kind of light, I guess, compared to like the American thick pancake.
I guess it depends on how many you have.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, we have a vocabulary word here, and it's the word perfect. Perfect is an adjective that means very, very good. So good that there's nothing bad about it. Perfect actually means something is 100% good and complete. It couldn't be better. Though we often use this word to exaggerate how we feel about something.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the best breakfast in the world, but it does show how many people like it by describing it as perfect. Here's an example sentence. The weather is perfect for a picnic in the park. It's warm with clear skies.
That does sound pretty perfect. Yeah. So we've got, well, let's see, we've got another kind of pancake that was the Swedish pancake, the pannkakor. Now we're moving down to Northern Africa, where they speak Arabic and French, but also Arabic. And the word here, I'm going to try Bakri. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that
Bakri. The H in Arabic is, you know.
Okay.
So this is from Morocco. Morocco's Bakri. Moroccan Bakri are soft cakes that are made by using semolina, flour, and yeast. Yeast. So we're going to talk about these ingredients, but first, the most important one we got to talk about, flour. Let's take a look. All right, so we were talking about this word flour. It's not the flowers that you smell on a bright summer's day, not that kind of flour. It sounds the same, but it is F-L-O-U-R. A flour is the white powder that's the most common ingredient in anything baked. Flour can be made from many kinds of different grain. Rice flour, barley flour, bean flour, potato flour, but the most common kind is wheat flour. Wheat flour is used everywhere in the world to make bread and cake. When you mix it with water, it makes dough. Then you can bake that into different things. So that's why flour is such a useful item. So an example sentence might be, there's too much flour in the bowl, so the bread mix is dry. Let's add more water. All right, so we talked about one ingredient, which is flour. The other two ingredients are semolina and yeast. So I'll talk about these in order. Semolina. It's not quite flour, but it's another wheat product. It's made from wheat middlings, apparently. It's coarser. It's not so fine. It's used to make pasta and wheat porridge, which is kind of like a soup, like a oatmeal, that kind of thing.
Yum.
Yeah. And yeast. Yeast is a really important ingredient in a lot of baking. You might think it's just another ingredient, but it's actually alive.
Ugh.
Yeast is a lot of tiny little living things that are related to mushrooms. They produce CO2 by eating flour. So people use them in baking and also in making beer.
Yeah, I remember learning at school that yeast was an ingredient that was actually alive. And I was like, is it okay that I cook it into food?
It's okay.
I think it's fine. They don't necessarily...
They don't feel pain. They're not animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like, almost like a bacteria?
No, they're a fungus. They're related to mushrooms, but they're really, really, really small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeast.
Thanks, yeast.
Well, the article continues. It says the yeast causes hundreds of bubbles to form on the cake's surface. So cool.
Yeah, because they make all that carbon dioxide.
They do. They make things bubble up and it gives it a very interesting shape. And so what is bubble? Well, bubble is a noun and a bubble is a small ball with air or gas inside. You can blow a bubble using water mixed with soap. You can blow bubbles with bubble gum too. Bubbles are fun. I like bubbles.
Yeah, me too.
You wouldn't call a football a bubble, even though it's a ball with air inside.
No, it has to be made out of water.
Yes.
I think it has to be that you can pop it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you pop a bubble with your finger, it will go like this.
Yep.
An example sentence with bubble is, I can create many bubbles by blowing out air underwater.
Yeah, so the bubbles in the bread, I guess, will make it very light and fluffy. Yeah, that's what happens when you make bread rise too, that you get a lot of bubbles in it. So now we're talking about surface. The bubbles go to the surface. Now, surface is the noun that means the top of something. It's the top of where the bread meets the outside air. So, for example, we talk about the surface of the water. That's where you have the top of the water and where it meets the air. Or if you're talking about in math, the surface area of an object, which means how much of that object is the outside of the object. So the surface of a cake is the top, the sides, and the bottom. That's the surface. All of the things inside are not surface. So an example sentence, the surface of the moon is covered in white rock, with lots of holes where it's been hit by other space rocks.
Cool.
That is cool.
That's so cool.
I know.
The moon doesn't have an atmosphere, so there's nothing to stop rocks from hitting it.
Exactly, which is why it looks so different from Earth.
Thank you, atmosphere.
Yeah.
The article continues and it says, the best Bakri, is that right?
Just go with it.
The best Bakri have a texture that melts in your mouth.
Ooh.
Sounds delicious. Let's talk more about this word, melt. So here we have the word melt, M-E-L-T. It's a verb, and when something melts, it changes from a solid into a liquid. So ice is solid water, and when ice gets warm, it melts and changes back into liquid water. Many things melt quite easily. Chocolate melts at a relatively low temperature, so if you're holding chocolate, it might get on your hands and be all sticky because chocolate melts at a low temperature. But some things melt at a very high temperature, which leads us to our example sentence. Steel has a very high melting point. That means you need to get it extremely hot to make it turn to liquid. So we have this word texture here that we should mention. The way something feels when you touch it is its texture, but here we mean the way that food feels when you are eating it. We talk about texture when we describe the degree to which something is rough or smooth, or soft, or hard. All right, here we go. Bakri can be served with olive oil and sugar, or you can cover them with butter and honey. Ooh, butter.
Yeah, butter. So basically it's kind of like pancakes, but with more bubbles.
Yeah, so we have
other toppings.
We have something very similar in the UK called crumpets.
Oh!
They look like crumpets. Yeah, they're kind of little cakes like this, and they have lots of holes in the top, and they're very, very spongy.
That sounds lovely.
And the holes in the top make sure that anything that you put on it gets soaked inside.
Like a sponge.
Like a sponge, and so it has so much flavor.
Wow, that sounds really good. So then we have things like olive oil, right?
Olive oil. Well, what's an olive? Olive is a noun, and an olive is a kind of food. It's a small, round, green or black fruit. Though they're very, very salty, I don't think we usually think of them as fruits.
No, because they're not sweet at all.
They're not. We often use olives in salads, and we can squeeze olives to make olive oil, which many people use for cooking and is actually one of the healthier oils to use.
Yeah, it's really good. And did you ever do the thing, because when they want to get the seed out of an olive, they kind of make a hole through the middle, so you can put them on your fingers and make little olive fingers. If you guys have ever done this with black olives, you know what I'm talking about. Olive fingers are very fun, and then you just eat them off your finger.
Might just be you, Kat.
No, it's not. It's not just me. I know other people do that. Anyway, so olive oil apparently is, it's really good in pasta. It's really good on these pancakes, which I'm not going to try and say again, because I have something even harder to say now.
Here we go. One of the hardest languages in the world.
Icelandic. So Iceland, if you know, Iceland is a little island that is off the north coast of Europe. It's also part of Scandinavia, and they have a really difficult language. So I'm going to try and say this name of their breakfast. Hafragrautur. Oh my.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So this is what they eat. If you live in one of the coldest countries in the world, that's why it's called Iceland, you need a breakfast that warms you up.
Iceland is a very interesting country.
Yeah.
It's very close to the UK. I think you can fly there in about 1 hour, and its geography looks incredible.
It's beautiful.
It's got like
It's
black
very cold
beaches,
though.
Very cold.
Yeah.
Its capital city is
Reykjavik.
Reykjavik.
Yeah.
And I think the island only has a population of like
40,000 people.
yeah, it's not so many.
Yeah, it's less than Taipei, maybe less than Taichung.
Oh, I think less than one of the districts of Taipei.
Yeah.
Well, the article continues. It tells us more about Iceland's breakfast. It says, Iceland's oat porridge, hafragratur, does just that. It keeps you warm. This meal is packed with energy and is made with water, milk, and oats.
Sounds good to me.
It does sound good. So let's talk about some of these food words. We have oat and we have porridge. Oats are a kind of cereal grain. It's kind of a plant that grows and they're very carby. They're good breakfast foods and they can give you a lot of energy. You can find oats in cookies too. We make porridge with oats by adding milk in the West, but most Asian countries use rice to make their porridge instead of oats. Jo.
Yeah, jo. I love jo.
Congee.
Congee.
I actually prefer the Western porridge. I think it's a bit...
I prefer Western porridge for breakfast because it's a little bit sweeter usually. But I like congee for like if I'm sick. I really like congee if I'm sick. Yeah,
that's good. Then we have this phrase, packed with. The phrase to be packed with something means that the thing you're talking about is absolutely full of something, that there's probably no more room for anything else. So my closet at home is packed with clothes. I don't need to buy any more.
Aw, probably me too.
Yeah.
I need to buy more shoes though.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I have like 3 pairs. That's what I have.
Sweet. All right. So we're talking about porridge that is packed with oats, milk, and water. That's basically
packed
it.
with energy.
Packed with energy.
Yeah, the oats are packed with energy.
Makes sense. So these ingredients, oats, milk, and water, are cooked until they make a thick porridge, which can be topped with butter, brown sugar, raisins, and nuts.
Good.
That sounds really good. All right, so we have the word ingredient. So an ingredient is a food that is used in making another food. So for example, if you're making a salad, the ingredients might be lettuce, carrots, cabbage, nuts, cheese, other vegetables, things like that, or anything else that is used to cook up something. So if you are putting foods in a bowl to make a mixture for cooking, that's ingredients. So for an example, sentence, Molly went to the store to buy some ingredients for making a big dinner. Yeah. And we talked about the different things you can put on top of hafragrautur, which one of them is raisins. And raisins are basically dried grapes. Grapes that have been dried so much that they're like, and they just look like little wrinkly people.
And they're very
little
chewy.
wrinkly people.
They're like little old people.
Yeah, I don't like them very much, actually.
I don't like raisins.
No.
The flavor is too strong for me.
Craisins, which are cranberry raisins, I actually like those.
Very good, because they're still a bit sweet. But raisins are kind of bitter.
I used to like them more, but I don't really like them now.
Yeah. So the article continues here, and it tells us that after all that talk of breakfast, it's time you tried some for yourself. It is. I'm hungry after talking about so many different kinds of food, but we do have a grammar point to talk about here. The grammar point is using this structure. It is time plus that, subject plus verb ed. Let's have an explanation. Using the grammar structure, it is time, subject, verb ed, we can talk about something that you should do because it's something that is worth doing or needs to be done already. By saying it's time you tried some for yourself, the article is saying that these breakfasts are so good and reading about them is so fun that now you should go and eat one to actually experience it. That's the reason we use the past tense verb tried here. Okay, it's time that we moved to our For You chat question, right? Well, that's the end of the article about breakfasts from around the world. I'm starving.
Yeah, I really want to have some pancakes now from all the different countries.
Yes.
And some porridge.
Slightly different. Yum. Well, let's go to our For You chat question so that we can truly wrap up this discussion about breakfasts.
You Chat.
All right, so our For You Chat question for today, which of the 5 breakfasts sounds the most delicious to you? Do you prefer a sweet or a salty breakfast? Why not both?
It really depends on my feeling that day. I rarely eat sweet food, but sometimes chocolate and blueberry pancakes just sounds perfect.
Yeah.
But of the 5 that we've talked about, I'm going to have to say the English breakfast.
It's your home.
It's my home. I grew up eating it. And I try and say this objectively, think that it's the best breakfast in the world.
Okay.
Bacon, sausages, tomatoes, fried bread, even the black pudding.
No.
Even the black pudding.
No.
Fried pig's blood.
Ugh. Well, I know people like that here.
They do.
But I don't love it.
I think it's the only crossover between Taiwanese and British cuisine is this
black pudding.
Yeah.
Got it. So I'd have to say, I think I would like to try the Swedish pancakes the most. That would be the best.
They do sound good.
Yeah, that's what I would like.
A nice light, sweet breakfast.
Yeah, of course, I think most of the students are going to say Danbing.
Of course.
But maybe some of you will want to try something new.
Like the Bakri?
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound good too. All right, so since that's all the time we've got, we're going to say goodbye to you. We hope you have a lovely breakfast, whatever you eat. Bye-bye.
See you.
英文练功房。
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Yoshi, and it's time for another useful English grammar point. Yeah, that's right. 今天要跟大家介绍的文法点就是 "It is time" 的句型使用方式。大家应该很常在电影里面或是在追剧的时候看到这样的句型啊，像是大家可以想象有一个画面，就是有一个爸爸或者是妈妈在跟自己的小孩嬉闹一段之后，然后爸爸就说 "It's time for you to go to bed." 有没有你该上床睡觉咯？对，这种句型是比较常见的，就是 It is time for 加上 somebody 加上 to 再加上原形动词，或者是 It is time for 然后直接加上一个名词，用来表示是某个人该做什么事的时候了。例如 It is time for us to have dinner. 今晚我想来点。我们晚餐的时间到咯，对不对？我们也可以说 It's time for dinner. 吃晚餐咯，嘿嘿。Now I know that was way too easy for you guys, right? 所以我们要来看看更进阶的用法，就是与现在事实相反的假设语气用法。水嘞，水嘞。与现在事实相反的假设语气用法是 It is time that 加上主词加上动词过去式的子句，其中有以下几点事情需要注意。第一点，这一种句型里面 that 子句的动词要用过去式，表示现在该做却尚未做的行动。那其中 that 可以省略，例如 It is time that we left the party. 我们应该要离开这个派对了。We should leave the party now, but we're not doing so. 对不对？我们应该要撤了，但我们其实没有这么做。第二点，在 time 之前，我们可以加上 about 来表示差不多是什么什么的时候，或者是加上 high 来表示该立即做什么事情的时候。这样的句型带有假设语气，意思是时候该做某一件事情喽，用来强调某一件事情或者是某一个动作早该发生了。那其中 that 子句中的动词时态跟我们刚刚说的一样，应该使用过去式，表示行为该做而尚未做。而且这里的 that 可以省略，例如 Oliver's flight is tonight, so it's about time that he finished packing. Oliver 的班机就在今晚，所以他早该打包好行李了。The workers are on strike because they think it's high time that they were given a raise. 工人们正在罢工，因为他们认为自己早该被加薪了。那我们最后做一个简单的复习。来，第一个常见的 It is time 的句型是长像这样子 ：It is time for 加上 somebody 加上 to 再加上原形动词，或者是It is time for 直接加上名词，那这样的句型是用来表示是某个人该做什么事的时候了。 好的，那第二种常见的句型就是进阶的 It is time 的句型，也就是与现在事实相反的假设语气，长得像这样子。It is time that 加上主词加上动词过去式的子句。那我们要记得 that 子句的动词要用过去式，表示的是现在该做却尚未做的行动。那其中 that 我们可以省略，还有在 time 之前我们可以加上 about 来表示差不多是干嘛干嘛的时候了，或者加上 hi 来表示该立即立马干嘛干嘛的时候了。所以用来强调某一件事情或者是某一个动作早该发生了。All right, my dudes and ladies, there you have it. See you next time. 有喜out，下次见 ，peace.
Vocabulary Review. Perfect. Oscar's magic show was perfect. No one could find a mistake in his performance. Flour. Susan's cake was terrible because she used the wrong kind of flour to make it. Bubble. Add this liquid to your bath and it will soon have soft, nice-smelling bubbles on top. Surface. The sun's surface is about 5,500 degrees Celsius, which is almost the same temperature as the center of Earth. Melt. The boy quickly finished the ice cream in his hand before it could melt. Ingredient. In order to make good food, David always insists on using fresh ingredients when he's cooking.
智慧小补帖
Syrup. Texture. Olive. Oat. Porridge.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net